newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. As always, it's great to have you in studio today. Brian Klimowski, lead meteorologist for the National Weather Service in Belmont with us. We're going to do a recap of the fall and winter, what happened to all the rain and snow that we usually get, and then we'll take a look ahead at spring and summer and Weather Service's role in the wildfire season. So that's coming up on today's program. Hello, Brian.
Hey, how you doing, Paul?
Great to have you back.
Nice to be back.
At least twice a year we have to have Brian in. Spring is here.
Yep.
Well, just about. What is the official spring time start?
You know, I'm not sure what time, but today's basically the day. So today's the day.
Yeah, today's the day.
We'll say spring starts today.
Spring is here, winter's gone, everyone's getting ready to put their winter coats away and stuff like that. Not that we had to use them too much this winter. It was pretty weak. So let's talk about fall and winter. It seemed like for the longest time we didn't talk about any rain, we didn't talk about any snow. It seemed like monsoon was good. Yeah. This last summer, monsoon was good.
Yeah, it was
typical
okay.
monsoon.
Yeah, you know, average, near average.
Fantastic, but
yeah.
I think what we say was 2 or 3 weeks long, and that's about it. And monsoon was pretty short. But then September hit, nothing happened in September. October, nothing happened. November, nothing happened. December, nothing happened. January, nothing happened. It was just really a bizarre fall, winter. So kind of recap it for us. What was the Weather Service doing during that period of time?
I tell you, it was absolutely remarkable. Like you said, the monsoon basically ended a bit early. September was much below normal. But then October, November, and December happened. Or should I say, they didn't happen as far as weather. It was warm and completely dry. I mean, almost completely unprecedented from what we've seen in the past. Only a couple times in history has it been completely dry through that period like it was this year. It was also very warm. So when you have warmth combined with the dryness, there's a lot of extra evaporation, and it just starts to promote the drought conditions that we're now seeing spread across northern Arizona. So it was very dry in the fall. It was very dry in the early winter as well. We didn't get our first real precipitation until early to mid-January this year, our first snowfall. And since then, it's been pretty dry. Now, up in the high country, it hasn't been nearly as moisture-starved as it has been down in the valleys. But you know, as yet, we're far below normal as far as precipitation, and you know, temperatures on the most part for this winter have been above normal. Though the past month has actually been colder than normal, so it's felt a little bit more like winter recently.
Oh, yeah, you know, yeah, it's kind of weird, but February wasn't too bad. February felt a little bit like winter. March has felt like winter, but then again, like for instance, this last weekend we had a storm.
Yeah.
You know, it felt like winter, it looked like winter, but then here we are. I think Cottonwood's supposed to get up to 79 by Thursday.
That's right. Yeah,
and so it seems like it's been that kind of a way too this winter too, where we get this stretch of 2, 3, 4 cold days. I'm trying to picture if I remember a really long cold streak where you go like a week or two where it's just like, oh man, is this cold ever going to end? I don't feel like that ever happened this winter. I feel like we had a few days of cold, had a little bit of weather, and then boom, temperatures right back up again.
Yeah.
Has that been the case all winter?
Well, yes and no. Up until about early February, it was far above average as far as the temperatures go. What's interesting is since early to mid-February, we've actually only had 7 days with above normal temperatures. Only 7, you know, out of about 5 weeks. It's actually been colder than normal over northern Arizona, except for like 7 days. So that is kind of unusual, but. As far as the moisture, we've only been getting these Band-Aids of precipitation, you know, a ½ inch here, a ¼ inch there, which has helped us struggle along and at least for the past couple months, you know, be in that range which is near normal as far as February and March goes. But the long-term precipitation deficits are huge.
Yeah, they are huge. What do we have? Apache County and Navajo County are both in extreme drought conditions right now, which is bad news for them, really bad news for them. But that's kind of spreading across the region.
It is.
Yeah, so I know Yavapai County's talking about some drought conditions. U.S. Department of Agriculture's got some loans going out for ranchers and farmers and stuff. They were talking about that last week because of drought conditions. So the drought's here. You've got a map that you're looking at in front of you there, and it's an awful lot of red on it. Can I hold that up real quick?
Awful lot of red.
What is all this red that we're looking at right here?
That is the precipitation deficit, or actually the percent of normal precipitation this year.
Okay.
And you'll see that everywhere in northern Arizona is far below. This is basically since October, with most areas in northern Arizona being less than 25% of our normal precipitation.
Wow. So can you give us some numbers? I know you got a bunch of numbers here. Can you give us kind of a general idea as to just how big the deficit was this year?
Let's start up in the high country.
Do it.
For Flagstaff. Normally, since September 1st, we'd have over 13 inches of liquid. That's rain and melted snow. This year, just over 5 inches. Let's go to Prescott. Nearby, normally they have 7.5 inches of precipitation. This year, less than 2. Winslow, where it's normally pretty dry, and they only get about 3.5 inches since September, they've had less than a ½ inch. How about right in our backyard in Cottonwood here? I have them.
Oh my gosh.
Normally they see about 6 inches. We've only had 1.23.
That is huge.
Yeah.
That's a huge deficit.
And you'll notice it when you walk out your door.
Yeah.
You know, here in the valley, or even down in Black Canyon City, down toward Phoenix, to where normally this time of year it's starting to green up nicely, the poppies are out. It's just not happening. Spring has not sprung, and a large part of that is because we haven't had the precipitation.
Everything's staying asleep, or it's decided, you know what, we're going to skip it this year.
It's also been colder than normal, so that's kind of, kept things from growing a bit.
The cold came later, so everything's going to be dormant through the winter months anyways, but then, we get this cold, and maybe it decides to stay dormant longer.
It's cold and dry.
But I think some of the plant life in Arizona just will decide, you know what, we don't have what it takes to go this year. Yeah. We're just going to hold off and wait until we can later this year, or maybe hold off until next year.
You bet.
So I think time will tell to see how the trees start budding and the plants start growing and stuff like that, how things are going to be. But right now, as you drove down from Flagstaff out of Belmont this morning, you had to have seen just how brown it is all the way up and down. There is no green anywhere. No. Okay, let's take our first break. We'll come back. Okay. So that's fall, winter. That's a look back at fall and winter is dry. When we come back from our break, we're going to talk about what caused kind of the storms to stay out of Arizona. Stick around, Countywide, back in just a couple minutes.
These hot ashes are about to be dumped, which could possibly start a wildfire. How will Smokey deal with such a hot situation? The garden hose defense. Next, a thorough stir. Then another spray. And finally, feeling if the ashes are cool. Oh, yeah. Ah, yes, the selfie. A ritual practiced so frequently with this tribe, but not so much by Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Being prepared is a part of who you are, but it's especially important in the case of a disaster. Be informed about possible emergencies in your area. Make a plan that covers where you go in an emergency. Build a kit with the things you need to survive. There's no one more capable of planning for your situation than you. Start your plan today. Go to ready.gov/myplan.
Welcome back. Brian Klimowski from the National Weather Service in Belmont in studio today. You've heard me talk with them. They're also helpful, just so you know.
Thank you.
National Weather Service folks are always very helpful. People that listen to our radio stations know that when I call the Weather Service, it's usually always on Friday. But anytime we got a storm, like we've got one coming through this week, we got one of those Band-Aids coming this week, I'll call up there and say, okay, how's it going to play out? And Megan or Andy or somebody up there is going to give me a rundown of how it's going to happen. So they're always very, very helpful. What caused this huge dry spell in Arizona through the winter months?
Well, let's start on the large scale and kind of work ourselves down into the details.
Okay.
Big scale picture, La Nina conditions. That is, the equatorial Pacific was a bit cooler than normal. Not much, but a bit cooler than normal, which tends to move the storm track a bit north of us. Okay, so we would typically expect somewhat drier than normal conditions when the oceans, especially the equatorial Pacific, is a bit cold. And that's what we had. But what we saw was like the reaction of the atmosphere was much stronger than we thought to the temperatures. We had a very large ridge form over the western United States, and it was persistent. That's what caused all that dry and warm weather, you know, from October through early January, just this persistent, unending ridge that pushed all the storms up into Washington and Oregon out where they got, you know, just socked earlier this year, and we missed everything. And California did as well. Now, recently, that's kind of backed off a bit. The ridge has moved even farther west, so now we're in that trophy area. That's why it's been colder than normal, and that's why the headlines we're going to see in the weather this week are the flooding rains in California, to where that Pineapple Express has kind of been reestablished, and a big storm is going to hit Southern California. Unfortunately, it's going to go over those burn scars, and the headlines we're going to see will probably be of more debris flows and flooding in Southern California later this week. But those conditions are still ongoing. I expect that for the rest of the spring and as we enter the early summer, it maintain probably a bit drier than normal over this area.
So is this unheard of, the winter we had? I mean, on a scientific study standpoint of the Weather Service, was it something unique to watch happen for the state of Arizona?
Not unique, but it was highly unusual. I mean, right now, the amount of snowfall we have, we're in the bottom 25, driest as far as snowfall. You know, we've now had 37 inches of snow in Flagstaff. It's been worse. So,
you said 2014 it was worse.
2014
part of the
was
show,
worse.
the slide fire year, which you brought that to my mind. So yeah, the slide fire was 2014.
Yeah, 2014 would probably be a good analog to how things are this year. We've had about the same amount of precipitation this year as we had back then, though it fell in a little bit more advantageous time this year. In 2014, most of their precipitation came in January, you know, late 2013, 2014. This year, ours has, you know, now started to trickle in now here in January, February, and March.
Well, I guess if it has to be late, it's better to be late than early when it comes to this sort of thing. But with wildfire season here already, it's better to have these Band-Aids coming through once a week right now than... Are we seeing... Well, we could look ahead at spring and summer. You just mentioned it looks like it's going to be drier than normal, spring and summer. Last few years we've had kind of wet springs and lead up to summer. So maybe not so much this year?
Well, let me rephrase that.
Okay.
Through the late spring, right now the outlook appears to be a bit drier than normal. However, from late spring through summer, it looks, there's really no indications either way. This week, La Nina we have is going to move into neutral conditions. So that influence, we're not going to have to deal with that influence.
Okay.
And dry winters tend to promote a slightly earlier start to the monsoon, perhaps, so that might be somewhat advantageous. So right now there's really no signal on, you know, let's say from May, June, July, or June, July, August, or the monsoon itself, July, August, September. Right now, we really can't say anything beyond, it looks like it's going to be near normal.
Do our storms start to track from a different direction now, too? Instead of being out of the northwest, do they come out of the southwest now?
Yeah, what we see later in the season is more cutoff lows, more systems like they're seeing in California that might, you know, tap that rich moisture or, you know, kind of spin off Southern California and kind of come up into this area. And that's why we see, you know, some of our big winters or our big spring storms, you know, those heavy, wet 1 to 2 foot snowstorms aren't that uncommon in March or even early April.
Wow, how nice would that be, right?
Wouldn't that be nice?
What a lifesaver. Because the storm we had this last weekend, although it dropped some snow, it was gone just as fast as it got here. It was amazing once that sun came out. Because, of course, the days are getting longer, so the sun has more of an opportunity to get rid of it as well. Okay, so obviously you're in tune. We're going to kind of shift because now we know spring and summer, we'll see. But the big thing here that I'm hearing is La Nina backed off. Yeah, get out of here, weak La Nina, and allow our typical flow to start coming back into the States. So we've been seeing that. And I can't remember who I talked to up at the Weather Service, but they mentioned that La Nina had backed off. I want to say early February it backed off. And then sure enough, he said you're going to start seeing stuff come into the state. And sure enough, we did. Every week we've had, it seems like every week we've had something. A little something come through, and we've talked about the Band-Aids already. So La Nina's out of the way. Spring, summer, we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen there. What is your role, and how closely are you working right now with Coconino National Forest, Prescott National Forest, Tonto National Forest, the Apache Sitgreaves? How close, Kaibab, are you working with them right now already this season? Is it early? Is it right on schedule? Or
you know, we always have a fire season. So we're always working with them in the spring to prepare for what's coming. Of course, this year we anticipate an enhanced fire season. You know, we can't look at it any other way. So to answer your question, yes, we are working with the forest very closely right now. We have meetings, gosh, almost once every week or two, to where we're providing, you know, any intelligence we have as far as outlooks, precipitation, temperatures, winds, what we expect this fall, or I'm sorry, this spring and summer. And as we inch closer and closer to the fire season, we'll be working closer and closer with them. We're actually going to have meteorologists in some of their offices during our fire season this year, so that we can be kind of that instant response weather information that they need.
Oh, so some would be like even stationed?
Even stationed, yes.
Stationed at the Forest Service office.
Yeah, down in Prescott.
Okay.
We'll be down in Prescott in late June.
Okay, all right. So, in late June.
In late June, yeah. Okay. You know, during that transition between the fire season and the monsoon season, one of the most deadly times here in northern Arizona.
Yeah,
that's when you're in
you get those dry lightning strikes. You get those
exactly.
those early monsoons that bring the Virga rain that you can see falling, but it never gets anywhere. And then you got the dry lightning coming down. So
and the strong winds.
And the strong winds.
Strong winds that can fan fires. You know, uncontrolled.
So that's that. So June is our really bad month. Maybe we see it start, but June is the killer around here.
June's it. Yep.
Yeah, June. And then July, the monsoon typically runs in. Like everybody knows around the 4th of July. And then it runs to the end of September. Sometimes it's not quite so strong through September. But July and August, man, it's... we'll usually have you guys back down and we talk about that. Tony, I think, was here last year. Tony Merriman came down last year and talked about the 5 dangers of the monsoon season, so we'll probably have him do something like that again this year. Okay, let's take our second break. National Weather Service lead meteorologist Brian Klimowski in studio today. The website is weather.gov. Countywide back in just a couple minutes.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
What to expect when you're expecting.
Like here?
A teenager.
Today, I'm going to show you how to teen-proof your home. First step, hide the car keys. Preferably somewhere they would never look. Challenges will come up. Be ready for them. Hi, honey. Ready for the...
Mom, you don't use mannequins in the mannequin challenge.
You don't have to know it all to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
If you don't fix them, sparks from dragging tow chains could cause a wildfire, and that could be scary. Ah, Smokey! Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back. Just a few minutes left in the program. We want to make sure you check out their website, weather.gov. It's changed a lot, the way I use it, and that's where I get my forecast every day. I'm not a weatherman. Some people think I'm the weatherman, and I'm not the weatherman. I'm just relaying Brian's information. But they've got a really nice map on their website, and I click on that in the middle of pretty much our triangle, Flagstaff, Prescott, Verde Valley, and then that's where I get my forecast, my 7-day forecast, and that's where I get my the 7-day tabular forecast, which is the highs and lows predicted throughout the week. And of course, each day that changes, so each day we update that. But you guys have come up with some really nice graphics across the top of the page. And a week like this week, where we do have something coming in, kind of Thursday night, Friday, we've got some rain coming in, you'll have graphics that show, okay, this is what you can expect, Thursday night, Friday. Yeah. And those have been very helpful for me, because it includes so much information, and the Twitter feed too. People should follow you on Twitter as well. I noticed that that has increased. Yeah. I met with you guys a couple years ago, and you mentioned that the social media aspect of it was going to be increasing, and I would definitely say it has.
You bet.
Yeah.
You bet. Yeah, we see a lot of interactions on Twitter, on Facebook. People can ask us questions on Facebook, and we can answer them pretty quickly. You know, so it's a nice way to get feedback if you don't quite understand the weather situation, or like you said, to see some of those graphics that kind of summarize the storm. Look at snow levels, how they're changing, and just how this storm might impact you. So.
And the other thing that I find very helpful on there too is I'll pull up that Twitter feed. It has a picture of Arizona, the Arizona map, and it'll show maybe where the storm is, and it's got the predictions right on there. So you can look at Flagstaff maybe 2 inches, and you can look over at Prescott 1/2 inch, and you can look over at Show Low, and it shows across the map how much is expected, which I would think anybody that has to deal with that, or even have to drive through that, would want to have that information. And it's almost hourly, especially when the storm is actually happening.
We'll be updating that a lot.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What I like a lot is it's like, okay, it's snowing in Williams. It's snowing in Belmont.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, okay, so 20 minutes, 30 minutes from now, it's going to be snowing in my backyard.
Yep.
So that's really nice. And I think kind of kudos to the Weather Service for being able to do that and have that come out. I know Megan Taylor's probably got a lot to do with a lot of that stuff, doesn't she?
She does develop a lot of our graphics, but all the credit goes to the staff there, and just those dedicated meteorologists. They're there 24 hours a day, trying to provide the information they can.
So people, if you want that kind of information, then just go to weather.gov, and we can just follow you right through there. Yeah, we can follow you right there. Yeah.
Yep.
Weather.gov, it's going to pull up the whole U.S. Just click on Arizona and then go from there. But there's a ton of information, tons of it. Stream flows, snowfall predictions, all your social media stuff. It's just, there's a lot of information on there. Speaking of information, now Tony has been in here numerous times, once with you, and we were doing the rain gauge contest and stuff like that. And we won. The state won.
That's right.
You tweet out all the time during storms, tell us how much you got in your backyard. Take a ruler out there and do that. How is that playing out for you guys? Because I've seen some of the responses.
Boy, it's a new way for the Weather Service to get information, through social media, through, a lot of dedicated volunteers helping us out, because we don't know what's going on in your backyard, but that information is absolutely critical. Yeah, so through the efforts of Tony and many of our other meteorologists, we're starting to reach some corners of the state that we've never reached before. Up in northeast Arizona, up on the reservation lands, we're getting valuable information. But even in Flagstaff, during this last storm, there's a very large difference in the amount of snow that fell from the north to the south part of the city. And now we have enough observers that can do that. But if people want to get involved and be an observer for us. Just get on our website, email us, and we can certainly hook them up with the information they need to be one of our observers.
Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul.
Again, the website's weather.gov. That's today's countywide. Thanks for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.